All right. Now here, if you want to define a default estate owner in an estate for all newly created regions, you can do that. I just leave it the way it is. If you're running a commercial grid, you want to be able to assign users to their grid, to their certain estates as you like. Here's where you would set up SMTP. Again, that's all self-explanatory. I would just read the instructions, follow that. That's if you need to set that up. Here is the network. This is where you need to change. You need to change this to, let's say you don't have any regions running at all. You can leave this at 9,000. But since I have regions running on port 9,000, you need to change this number. So let's choose a number that I know is not used. I'm going to type a random one in there. And that's going to start the simulator on that port. So each simulator you're running on your grid has to be a unique port here. So just change that for every one that you run. So we'll just put that for now. Continuing on. We're not going to set up the search yet, but that might be something in the future we can do with the third-party plugin. All right, so now we're going to set up the messaging section. I have my safety pre-configured one over here. I'm just going to use as reference so we don't make any mistakes. So under messaging, we're going to need to uncheck or uncomment this section. You need to also define your, actually we'll just leave that like that because that's going to pull the base URL and the private port. You need to uncheck the storage provider, uncheck mute list, uncheck mute list URL, and add your URL into here. So we're going to go tutorial.skylifegrid.com. We're going to forward offline messages true. Okay, so that section's set up. Moving on, let's get this out of the way for now. This is where you set your remote admin if you like to do so. It's information for it there. This is where you would change variations in the wind. I wouldn't recommend changing any of these unless you really know what you're doing. This is disabled by default. If you want your region to have wind light settings and whatnot, you need to have this set to true. Materials are true by default. And this is for the search section. Later on we can maybe implement an in-world search. This is the economy section. By default it's commented out. You need to uncomment these sections to allow $0 in-world transactions. Later on we'll go ahead and cover the NSL money server, which you'll have to set in this section anyways, but we'll do that in another video. But for now we'll just have $0 transactions. Moving on. Here is where you set OSL functions for such things as walking teleporters and other goodies. I will give a list in the description that you can use. Just cut and paste and highlight this section right here and paste the code that's in the description for that, and it'll just work. Moving on. When you get your Vivox voice, or if you have one already, you just enter it here in this area, cut and paste, and it will just start working, allowing you to have in-world voice. Alright, so by default this is disabled, so you need to enable groups by uncommenting. Let's get this back up so that we can make sure we're doing it. Alright, there are the groups. So for groups we are going to enable true, level 0 to create. We're going to set it for group module v2. The storage provider needs to be set to Opensim Data MySQL. You need to uncomment this and change from XML group service connector to groups HG service connector. Just highlight this, cut, paste it down here. This needs to be set to remote. You can enter a secret key here if you like. The group server URI needs to be set, so uncomment here, and I would put the URL to the server here. and the public port. Here you would uncomment and put the private port, which is set to 02. Enable messaging enabled, to uncomment that to allow for messages. And then lastly, you need to make sure that this is set for group messaging module V2. And all the other settings here, if you want to allow online message users, change to true. Notice is enabled true. And then just set these to 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever you choose down at the bottom. Moving on, let's get this out of the way. Media on the prem is enabled by default, which allows from TV and whatnot on prems, which is really cool. NPC is disabled by default. To enable it, just change this to true. This will allow non-player characters in your grid. Moving on. You need to uncomment this section here. This will allow for the user profiles to work. And at the bottom here, you need to choose any file that you want it to load. So we did set up the grid hypergrid ini, so we have to uncomment that one. By default, it's standalone, so just comment that out and then uncomment this one, and then save. All right, now that we have our Opensim set up, we're going to go ahead and make a shortcut on the desktop. So we're going to go to the Welcome Center bin, and we're going to find the Opensim exe file, which is here. We're going to make a shortcut on the desktop, which I've done here, and renamed it and changed the picture. So next is to double click on that to start it. It's going to set up the tables, which it's doing now in the database. And then it's going to say, wait a second, I don't have a region. It's going to ask me for a new region name. So what we're going to do is we're going to go tutorial welcome. And we'll just push this, where you could set a custom UUID if you'd like, but we'll just push enter. This is where you define your region location, where it's going to be placed on the grid. I wouldn't recommend using 1000 by 1000 because you can't jump between the same coordinates. So if another grid's using the same numbers, and you won't be able to jump. So I would suggest switching it up a little bit. So like just put random numbers in that you want. So we'll do that. Internal IP, just push enter. Change this port number. Normally we could leave this alone, but each region in each sim has to have its own port. So I already have 9000 in use, so we'll just choose some random number here, and then just push enter there. Now for your external host name, this is where you input your FQDN or IP address. So we're going to use tutorial.skylifegrid.com because that's what points to the server. Now it's going to say, oh wait, I don't have an estate name, so we're going to choose that, which is tutorial holdings. And now it's going, well, this estate doesn't have an owner, so we need to assign one. Now you have to choose a user that's already in the grid. So we made a user called test member. So test member is going to own that region. So there we have. The region is started up, and we could literally log in right now to our grid. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and start this. This takes the longest time. So we're going to add our grid URI here, which is tutorial.skylifegrid.com : port is 5005. So we're going to go apply. And oh look, it pulled the Wi-Fi page up because we defined that in the robust. So there's that. Oh look, we've got 4 users. Yay! One region. So let's log in. We're going to go test member and enter the password that we had chose or made. And if you see on the server, as we log in, it's going to authenticate the avatar. Let's get both screens open here. It's checking right now. It's saying, hey, this person is trying to log in. Maybe I put the password wrong. Let's check it again. Set user. Let's change the password of my, just in case I made a mistake. So set user help passwords. I don't remember how to do it. Reset user password. Test member. Enter 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's try that now. Test member. Enter 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now it's contacting the robust. It's checking the password. It's saying, okay, it's all good. Now it's talking to the region simulator. It's saying, all right, we're going to put you in this region because this is the default region, and it's the only region. So we're on our region. Woo, and look, YG, because we set that later. But look, oh my God, I'm Ruth. But hey, we're on our own island. Now let's say you want to load a welcome center on this island. We can go ahead and do that real quick. Let's just go to Zadaru here. It's a nice spot to grab some ores. And we'll grab, let's see, welcome center, come on, avatar. Let's go welcome center. So we're just going to right click and we're going to go copy link address because we're going to load it right from the website. So go back to the server and go back to our region simulator and we'll type load OAR and we will paste that link and push enter. And it's going to load that welcome center in front of your eyes on your region. So that's how you load your very first region welcome center. Just trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting here. So yeah, basically that's how you get your grid up and running. And it's very simple. The next episodes are going to cover some other little things such as money server and anything I missed. But you guys are more than welcome to comment on anything that I have missed, and I'll do my best to rectify it. Okay? I appreciate your watching, and thank you for your time.